Their first ball. Their first uniform. Their first number. Their first teammate. Their first goal. Their first coach. We take great care in making sure their first isn't their last. We're so much more than a soccer class. Come play with us today at kickstarttoddlersoccer.com.
In life, things aren't scripted.
If you're an athlete, we need people like you and translate those skills to officiating.
You can get a lot out of it.
It happens in every town, in every game.
We never have a perfect game, but the rewards always outweigh the negativities.
Granite City Food and Brewery has 2 Michigan locations in Troy and Northville. Serves made-from-scratch food, brews in-house beer, and even has brunch every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. To learn more about their daily specials or to book a private party, visit gcfb.com. Make sure you head over to Granite City in Northville at the corner of 7 Mile and Haggerty, or the Troy location at 16 Mile and I-75.
We like to do it before we go out on the weekend.
We do.
We do it every week.
Whether we need to or not.
We did it today.
It was really dirty.
My parents do it every day.
Hey, kiddo!
Do it every day with the Unlimited Club only at Jack's Car Wash. Protect your car from the hot summer sun, dust, dirt, and contaminants all summer long with the Jack's Unlimited Club.
Join today, starting at just $24.99 a month.
I watch soccer on the Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
لا تنسون تتابعونا على Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I like to watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
Me gusta mirar fútbol en Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I love watching soccer on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome here into the Michigan Soccer Network studios here in Shelby Township. My name is Jonathan Turner. This is Dan Stickrat. We are excited to bring you our show here on this Sunday evening, 8 o'clock, the last high school ranking show here of the fall, Dan.
Yep, it's time. State tournament starts later this week, and the real fun begins.
The real fun begins. So the high school ranking show starts right now. As we welcome you back here into our MSN studios here for tonight's, tonight's ranking show, our last one here of the fall season. You know, Dan, we've had a chance to look at these rankings here these last 6 weeks, and you know, we've seen teams move in and out. We've seen some changes made, but 42 changes here tonight is what happened in total.
Yeah, a lot of the conference have been decided. There's a few conferences will be decided on Monday or Tuesday. Some have their conference tournaments will wrap up tomorrow. we saw a ton of upsets, lower seeded teams in conference tournaments all over the state, which will have a bearing on the final standings. So a lot of leagues will do a regular season and then a conference tournament and then add the points together to come up with the final ranking in their conference. So we saw some upsets. A lot of teams that were undefeated last Sunday now have 1 or 2 losses.
That they do. We saw two first teams in the rankings drop down into third, actually, in both in 2 divisions. But something that I wanted to kind of touch base with here in regards to, we know that as this network, as our channel continues to grow, that the technology, the way the graphics look on your screen, all of that is going to continue to improve. For those of you at home who don't know this, I produce this show at the exact same time that we're live here. So all the audio, all that is done by Dan and I, well, John, and then Dan's next to me. So we figured we would just say that to let everybody know that we know that if there's a technical difficulty, we're trying to do it on the fly. If I had another body, per se, in our production chair, which is just off the screen over here, that would make things a lot easier and a lot cleaner in a lot of situations. But we just want to let you know, as we grow as a network, those things will be improved upon. We know that with like the rolling graphics that we have for the divisions and things like that, that might not always be the best the best option. But for now, it's what we're using, and we'll continue to work at improving all the things here on the network. So what's going on right now on the bottom of your screen, you can see on the lower thirds there, those are all of our presenting partners. Take a look at what they have to offer. They do some amazing work. We've got some great, amazing partners that we work with. Also, during that ticker, you can take a look at some of the information about what's going on right now, not only on MSN in regards to the show, but also what's happening this upcoming week and the things that we're going to cover, including tomorrow night's matchup, which will be a MAC Red final matchup. The 2 teams playing tomorrow night are tied right now at top of the table with 20 points apiece. Utica Eisenhower and Anchor Bay. They play each other tomorrow night at 7 p.m. out at Anchor Bay. We will be live there tomorrow night to bring you that game. And the winner of that game will become the new Red MAC championship. Unless they tie, then they'll share a piece of it, I'm assuming.
And those are 2 teams that are not ranked at the time, but there is a long list in Division I of schools I would consider bubbling under the top 15. A lot of schools that have had good records, well above 500. They've remained in their conference race. Like I said a couple minutes ago, a couple of these leagues will be decided on Monday or Tuesday, and then Wednesday through Saturday, depending on where you're at in the state, the pre-district games will take place, so the quarterfinals in each district. A lot of those games are Wednesday, Thursday downstate. Up in northern Michigan part, some of those games will be Friday and Saturday, but it's here. We'll know all the conference champions by Tuesday night, and the fun will begin Wednesday, and next week we'll see the district semis and the district finals the following week.
Got a question coming in already from Braden Burke. Thoughts on Romeo? So, Romeo had a chance to see Romeo twice this season. We saw them once against Lake Orion when they played out the first night of the season. That was our first high school game that we've covered through the network. And then we saw them against De La Salle, a very good team. I think the thing that we're going to talk about this tonight, and we've had a chance to talk with some of the chairs of the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association about this topic, about rankings, about where you think a team might fit, where you think a team could fit. The reality is there's a process. The process is, one, you've got 4 coaches who are responsible collectively for just north of probably close to 500 and plus teams, right? So across the state of Michigan. And to be fair, I think it's safe to assume that probably only 100 to 125 are somewhat involved in this process. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's 60 teams, right? We're talking about 60 teams who are ranked, and we're going to get to those here in just a few moments. But the reality is that not every coach across the state of Michigan is reaching out to any of the chairs or fellow coaches to talk about their teams being ranked. Okay, so that's first and foremost. The second part of this is the coaches themselves, who maybe aren't necessarily a part of the Coaches Association. Maybe they're newer coaches. Maybe they didn't know that there's a Coaches Association per se. So I would encourage you, if you're a player, if you're a parent, if you're a fellow coach, head over to the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association. It's MIHSSCA. MIHSSCA.com. Head over there, and on that website you can also sign up to become part of the association. I believe it's $30, I believe. And that gets you the ability to have your players ranked. Also, all academic awards will be awarded through that website. And that also helps with you in regards to getting players qualified for all state, all region, all district, all of the above. That's how that works. So we would encourage you to head over there to do that. And at this point in the season, it's kind of too late to kind of start the process to get your team ranked. But what we can say is that if you want your team, if you believe your team is being neglected or is not part of the process, then we would encourage you to reach out to any one of the 4 chairs, a part of the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association.
Yeah, and they asked about Romeo. Romeo's probably the best record they've had in their program's history, dating back to the 1980s. And I believe Romeo won a district back in 1987. I don't believe they've won one since. Could they win one this year? Yes, it's a very good district, though. Rochester Adams has the best record they've had since they got to the semis back in 2009.
Yep.
Eisenhower had a new coaching staff this year. They're playing a lot better now than they were in the end of the beginning of the season. And then there's teams that are upset-minded. You know, Rochester and Rochester Stony Creek are young, but quality programs. You don't want to face a team like that because they have nothing to lose with the young roster. So Romeo could win a district. They could lose the first night, but they've had a very good season. They would be considered one of those many teams in Division I that would be ranked like 16th through like 25 or 30. There's a lot of good teams out there in D1 and D2, you know, especially the bigger divisions where they've had good records. They haven't been able to crack into the top 15. I mean, East Lansing, Portage Central have had very good years. Muskegon Mona Shores, Dearborn Edsel Ford, Wallach Northern was in the ranking early in the season. They've had a good year. In the MAC Red, you have Chippewa Valley, Anchor Bay, Eisenhower, all have had good years. Birmingham Seaholm won the OAA White Division. I believe they have one loss. They have like 4 or 5 ties, but they have one loss. Best team they've had in a long time. So these are all teams that aren't ranked or kind of been sniffing, or maybe they were ranked 1 or 2 weeks earlier in the season, but.
Thank you, Matt, by the way. I apologize. Yeah. I know that when I was coaching here many years ago, it was $30. So it is $50 as I register as a coach. I apologize. That was my error. They will not give you a discount based on what I just said. So, but I appreciate Matt nonetheless for letting everyone know the fee to register as a Michigan High School Soccer Coach.
It's got to be inflation, right? Everything else is.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was always 50. I don't know. I mean, I haven't coached in a couple of years, but hey, why don't we do this? Let's get into some rankings.
Yes, let's get
into some rankings. Hey, so we're going to start here, obviously, we always do, with the 15 through 11. It'll rotate and roll on your screen, we're going to add a little music this week. I have a little more control over it this week, so why not, right? So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to throw those rankings in right now here, starting with 15 through 11. Bad Axe stays the same in Division 4. Their record 10-1. Grand Rapids North Point Christian 9-4-4. They were down from 13th last week. Byron Center Zion Christian 12-3-1, up from 14. Kalamazoo Hackett Catholic Prep 10-4-3, and the Royal Oak Shrine 11-5-1 is up from 12.
Yeah, and Bad Axe looks like they're going to win the Greater Thumb Area Conference again this year. I believe they won the last couple of years. Byron Center Zion Christian's been bouncing around that top 15 all season. I believe they're in second place in the Alliance League, heading into districts. Kalamazoo Hackett Prep comes out of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. I believe they're in second place going into the last couple days. 9 schools out of 15 in that conference. It's a conference that expanded by several schools. 9 of those schools have records above 500. So it's all D3 and D4 schools in that league, but it looks like it's been a very competitive conference this season.
That it has been. As we head now to Division 3, Fenville 13-3-1, staying the same as they did last week, won 3 games. Then Milan lost to Grosse Seal here this past week, but are currently at the 14th spot. They're down from 13. Flint Powers Catholic 9-9-2, down from 12. Frankenmuth 15-3-3. Down from the 10th spot. Macomb Lutheran North at 8-4-5, sitting the same.
Yeah, and Fenville won that conference, the Southwestern Athletic Conference. We just talked about them just a minute ago. So they've had a very good season. And Milan is one of 5 teams that have had quality records out of the Huron League this year. Looks like Riverview is going to win the league championship. Grosse Seals dominated that league for over a decade. Monroe, St. Mary Catholic Central, Milan, and New Boston Huron. God, can't spit that one out, have all had quality years. So that conference is a little deeper than it has been in the past. Again, 5 schools above 500 in that league that have played quality soccer this season.
Yeah, that they have is we now look at Division 2 and number 15, Edwardsburg. They were down from the 11th spot. Fenton, who fell here to Goodrich, moved to 14. They were down from the 12th spot, 12, 1, and 4. Goodrich and Kane Russell, all-time leading scorer, won the Flint Metro League here this past week at 13-6-0. Their first time in the rankings all season long. Ludington sitting in that 12th spot, up from 13, and then Grand Rapids Forest Hills Christian sitting at 12-4-1. They're down from the 5th spot.
Yeah, Edwardsburg is going to win the Wolverine Conference. Plainwell had won that conference 7 years in a row, so we got a new champion in that conference. It's 8 schools. It used to be 10. 2 schools did leave this past summer for other conferences. Fenton finished second behind Goodrich. Goodrich is one of those schools that's kind of been bubbling under. They've been getting better and better. They have one of the better players in the state in Caden Russell, so they did win that league. Ludington was in the Lakes 6 conference out on the west side. That conference disbanded, so they joined the West Michigan Conference this year. 18-1-1, they're conference champions. They're having one of the best seasons in school history there. And then Grand Rapids Forest Hill Central has been in the top 5 all season, but a couple of late season losses, and they've tumbled a little bit down the rankings. Still a quality team. They won a district last year. Do not count them out.
Do not count them out at all. As we now take a look here at Division 1 here, starting with South Lyon. South Lyon, down from 13th, fell to Walled Lake Northern in their league finale here this past Monday. Grand Haven, 12-1-3, is down from 12. Traverse City West, 14-1-1, is up from the 15th spot. Saline, 15-3-2, up from 14. And Dearborn Fortune at 16-1-1. Got their first loss here of the season this past week to Dearborn, but they stay the same.
A lot of action with, like, South Lyon did lose in their conference championship, but they did win the regular season. There's 9 schools in the Lakes Valley Conference, so they were champs. Only 1 loss all season. That was this past week. Grand Haven suffered their first loss. A lot of teams that, again, had 0 losses entering last week added one to the resume this year. So they were upset by Jenison in the OK Conference Red Division semis. Jenison does have one of the best goalies in the state. They're a 500 team, but when you have a hot goalie, when you get the conference tournament, state tournament, you know, those are the scary teams to play. Traverse City West, folks, 12 straight Big North Conference championships, 21 in 25 seasons. The school opened back in 1997. That's when Traverse City Central and West split into two Class A Division I high schools, and they have absolutely dominated that league. And Petoskey and Alpena, compared D2 schools, have had quality, seasons in their own right, and Traverse City West found a way to finish atop again. Saline outdueled several quality schools in the Southeastern Conference Red Division. Ann Arbor Pioneer was second in that division, so congratulations on the Hornets in winning that conference. And then Fortson did lose once this past week, but they captured the KLA East and will play in the conference championship either against Salem or Northville this week.
This man next to me has more information than Google. You have more information than Google, and very much appreciated. He knows way more about the sport of soccer in high school than I ever will. And Dan, you are a plethora of information. Knowing the information that you know and being able to actually get that out to our audience is fantastic. We just covered the top 5, the 15 through 11 teams here across all 4 divisions. When we come back here on the other side of the break here, we're going to get into the next part of these rankings, 10 through 6. And I'm excited to start talking about 10 through 6 as well as 5 through 1.
Yep. We'll be back in just a minute, but we'll continue counting them down, and we'll take a look at some more conference races and some upcoming districts.
That we will. We'll be right back.
Their first ball. Their first uniform. Their first number. Their first teammate. Their first goal. Their first coach. We take great care in making sure their first isn't their last. We're so much more than a soccer class. Come play with us today at kickstarttoddlersoccer.com.
Granite City Food and Brewery has 2 Michigan locations in Troy and Northville. Serves made-from-scratch food, brews in-house beer, and even has brunch every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. To learn more about their daily specials or to book a private party, visit gcfb.com. Make sure you head over to Granite City in Northville at the corner of 7 Mile and Haggerty, or the Troy location at 16 Mile and I-75.
In life, things aren't scripted.
If you're an athlete, we need people like you and translate those skills to officiating.
You can get a lot out of it.
It happens in every town, in every game.
We never have a perfect game, but the rewards always outweigh the negativities.
Move by Wen. Puck to 6. Wide open net for Koch. Check. Espinosa gets a head on it. Will that go in? And it does. Shot. And that goes off the post and in. Oh, look at this. Look at this. That might be a good to be. That's Cervantes.
That's the goal of the week.
Wow.
We like to do it before we go out on the weekend.
We do.
We do it every week.
Whether we need to or not.
We did it today.
It was really dirty.
My parents do it every day.
Hey, kiddo!
Do it every day with the Unlimited Club only at Jack's Car Wash. Protect your car from the hot summer sun, dust, dirt, and contaminants all summer long with the Jack's Unlimited Club.
Join today, starting at just $24.99 a month.
Velasquez. Shot. And that goes off the post and in. Six. Oh, good move by Wen. Puck to 6. Wide open net for Koch. Check. And that's goal number 2. Now wide to the option. Just inside the 18. Left foot cross to Steinwasser. Saved by Solly. Welcome back here into our MSN studios here for the high school ranking show. It's bittersweet, Dan, as we think about where we've come so far this season. We've covered 5 weeks. This is our 6th week here this season of covering these rankings. We've seen some changes. Tonight we've seen 42 of them.
Yeah. You get late in the season, this is when the upsets start happening, like I said, in the conference tournaments and the state tournaments, because when the districts start on Wednesday, someone will go down. There will be a team that's been ranked, or just underneath the rankings has a really good record that will go down in the first round. Who will that be? You never know, but there will be somebody that will cause Twitter to go crazy, because someone you would expect to make a deep run will be gone the first night.
Yeah, no, and it's bound to happen. You know, especially with the way the districts are going to be shaping up here. We talked about how we're going to talk about some of these districts coming up here. You know, this upcoming Wednesday, the 12th, we see Troy Athens versus Birmingham Groves. That's at Athens. You know, an OAA white team versus an OAA red team. A pretty good looking matchup. And then you look a little further ahead. You got, not look further ahead, but you've got Troy High taking on Oak Park. And Royal Oak will be taking on U of D in that district matchup. That's a pretty good district, as the winners of those teams, of Troy Athens or Groves, will be playing Berkeley. They're the number 1 seed. Troy High on the other side of the bracket would see, again, U of D or Royal Oak if they were to win that game against Oak Park. You know, it's a, yeah.
Yeah, U of D Jesuits, a quality team. They were ranked in the very first ranking of the season. Birmingham Girls won a conference last year, graduated quite a few players, but are above 500. Royal Oak is another team that cracked the Division I rankings last season, returned several guys. A quality team. So those are the types of schools that may not have been ranked this year, but you never know. You're in a close game, it's 1-1. Even if you're getting dominated, you get a free kick from 35 yards out, and someone puts it up the other 90, and then they pack the box and they walk away with an upset.
Yeah, no question. So I think we should get into some more rankings. What are your thoughts? Think we should get some more rankings going? What do you think?
Division 4.
I think we should get them in. We'll add some more songs in here, some more music in the background as we'll hop in here to 10 through 6, starting with division number 4. Looking at this again, in that number 4, 10 spot, Clarkson Everest Collegiate 9-5-1. They just lost in a penalty shootout, 4-2 to Grosse Pointe University of Liggett here this past Wednesday in the Cardinal Championship game. Hillsdale Academy 7-6-3 down from the 8th spot. Potter's House Christian 11-7-2's up from 10. Marcellus Howardsville Christian sitting the same at 4-0-1. Rochester Hills Northwest 11-2-2.
Yeah, this is the first time Everest Collegiate ever reached the Catholic League final. They did win the intersectional 2 division this year, first time there. So they got to the finals, lost in that shootout to Liggett. Hillsdale Academy, even though they have 6 losses, have played a tough schedule, independent. Wyoming Potter's House Christian, your defending Division IV state champions, is starting to pick up a little bit of steam. They did graduate 1 Division I player last year and a handful of other players, but they're in contention. They could win the Alliance League this week. Marcellus Howardsville Christian, one of 2 Division IV schools that have lost, one of 4 overall in all 4 divisions who have not suffered a loss yet. This is the best team they've had in their school history. Rochester Hills Lutheran Northwest finished 2nd in the Blue Division of the Michigan Independent Athletic Conference. Quality team. They actually won that division last year, finishing 2nd this year, but a team that got moved out of a really tough district. They were in last year. They were with Shrine and Everest Collegiate. This year they're on their own, so they're a team that could win a district and maybe see advance far in the Division IV state tournament.
Just got a question coming in here. What are our thoughts on Warren Cuzno soccer? I had not seen Warren Cuzno this year. Dan, any thoughts?
Champions of the Macomb Area Conference Blue Division. Last year there was a major rebuilding year. They were a really good team the previous 2 years, but they brought back most of their lineup this year. They won a conference championship. I believe there was Sterling Heights Stevenson, which is one of the better teams in the MAC Red this year. So look for Cuzno to be a team that could battle in that district. Frazier's another team that's had a good year in that district. So that's one of those districts that will be wide open. But Cuzno did win a league championship, and hats off to, I believe, St. Clair Shores Lakeview, the best team they've had since the mid-1990s. 1 loss going in the state tournament. So there's another team that didn't play the tough schedule. It's never been ranked this year, but enjoying the high win percentage, and a team that could pull an upset.
Cuzno went 8-5-3 this season, 8-3-3 in the league. So those are your thoughts on Cuzno as we take a look now here and get a little deeper here. Now Division III, Grosse Ile up from 14th at number 10 at 8-7-0. Won 2 games this week, beat Milan in that league championship. Elk Rapids 13-7-2 is at 9. Traverse City Christian, Pontiac Notre Dame Prep, all 3 stay the same spot from last week, 9-8-7. Notre Dame Prep, we still are trying to figure out how you have 9 ties this season, 10-1-9.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned last year, if that is not a state record, it's got to be in the top 2 or 3. I mean, how often do you see a school go through an 18, 20 game schedule with 9 ties? Now, Notre Dame Prep is an independent. They did leave the Catholic League 3 or 4 years ago, so they've kind of been bouncing around. They've played a lot of D1 and D2 schools as a D3 school, but a quality team, another team that could make a deep run in the Division III tournament, and with 9 ties, they're not giving up a lot of goals, so if that's the type of game that gets a double overtime or shootout and you're playing Notre Dame Prep, watch out.
No question about that. As we look at Division II now, here on your screen as they continue to roll through. Number 10, Riverview. They stayed the same, 18-2-1. Grand Rapids Christian 9-4-5, up from the 15th spots. Good movement. DeWitt up from 9th at 13-3-2. Birmingham Brother Rice moved down from 6th to that 7th spot with a 9-3-1 record. Parmer Western maintains an undefeated record, up from 5th.
Yeah, we'll start with them, 15-0-0. The only D2 school without a loss. They've been perfect on the year. They captured the Interstate 8 Athletic Conference. I mentioned last week that that's a league that's been dominated by Marshall and Coldwater in the last few years. They have won that league outright, and they'll be in the same district as Richland Gold Lake. So those 2 teams could pair up in a district final here in about 10, 12 days. Riverview did win the Huron League. Again, I mentioned Grosse Ile dominated the league a decade plus. They're the champions. There was 5 quality teams in that league. DeWitt tied in first place in the blue division of the Capital Area Athletic Conference, and then they lost in the gold tournament semifinals. East Lansing, unranked all year, was the gold tournament champion. They did upset Okemos, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. And Grand Rapids Christian, one of 4 very good teams out of that Ottawa-Kent Conference white division. All 4 of those schools, including Forest Hills, Northern Forest Hills Central, East Grand Rapids Christian, all 4 of those schools are very quality. Could be a team still playing here in a couple weeks.
That they could be, as we now look at Division 1. Again, Division 4 will start off on your screen, but we'll continue to chat about Division 1. At that number 10 spot, Northville moved down from the 9th spot, 11-2-4. Rochester Adams moved down from the 8th spot. They're sitting at 9th. Salem, 13-4-2. They moved up from 10. Berkeley and Clarkson both remain the same at 7 and 6, respectively. Berkeley finishes at 18-2-1, while Clarkson 13-4-2, Dan.
Yeah, Northville second in the KLA West this year. Salem, because Northville actually tied Heartland, an unranked team, 1-1 last week. So Salem is the number 1 seed out of that division. Rochester Adams, one of 5 ranked teams, the OAA Red Division, still in the top 10. In fact, 5 of the top 9 schools all in Division 1 all come from the same conference. 1 loss. Rochester Adams had finished at 500 or below the last 3 seasons. Again, this is the best team they've had in 13 years since they reached the semis. Berkeley, only 2 losses, out of that same conference. They're a very good team. They did get the number 1 seed in their district, which is one of the tougher districts in Division 1. And then Clarkston is finally getting some of their players back. A lot of coaches talked about they could have been the best team on paper back in August in that OAA Red Division. With their full lineup for the first time this season entering the state tournament, the Wolves could be a team that could, advance to the Final Four or farther.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this and the players that they had, and really for Clarkston, it wasn't so much about their offensive power as it was defensively and in goal, right? Their goalkeeper, Wright, was gone for the better part from a wrist injury that took place, I think, over the summer, and that prohibited him from being a part of the lineup, and they had a backup player on the field who was a field player, I think a defender.
Yeah, they're center back.
Yeah, center back. So, so that made things a little more interesting for them as they made their way through the whole OAA Red. But hey, they came out 13-4-2. They had 4 losses, 2 of which came to Catholic Central. right? So another really good team in the Division One, and we'll talk about them here in a few moments. But I mean, Dan, we're getting close here to the business end of the rankings. How are they looking so far?
Again, we said 42 schools changed positions out of 60, so we're going to see some more movement once we crack into the top 5 in each of the 4 divisions. A lot of quality teams. Again, a lot of these schools won their conference championship, won a conference tournament, finished second in their league, or there are several conference tournaments that will be decided here on Monday or Tuesday to wrap up the regular season.
So Joe Pozlowski just asked a question, and it's a good one. And I'm going to get to your question, Joe, on the other side of the break. You're watching the Michigan Soccer Network's presentation of the High School Highlight and Ranking Show here, brought to you by the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association. We will be right back.
Their first ball, their first uniform, their first number, their first teammate, their first goal, their first coach. We take great care in making sure their first isn't their last. We're so much more than a soccer class. Come play with us today at kickstarttoddlersoccer.com.
In life, things aren't scripted.
If you're an athlete, we need people like you and translate those skills to officiating.
You can get a lot out of it.
It happens in every town, in every game.
We never have a perfect game, but the rewards always outweigh the negativities.
Granite City Food and Brewery has 2 Michigan locations in Troy and Northville. Serves made-from-scratch food, brews in-house beer, and even has brunch every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. To learn more about their daily specials or to book a private party, visit gcfb.com. Make sure you head over to Granite City in Northville at the corner of 7 Mile and Haggerty, or the Troy location at 16 Mile and I-75.
We like to do it before we go out on the weekend.
We do.
We do it every week.
Whether we need to or not.
We did it today.
It was really dirty.
My parents do it every day.
Hey, kiddo!
Do it every day with the Unlimited Club only at Jack's Car Wash. Protect your car from the hot summer sun, dust, dirt, and contaminants all summer long with the Jack's Unlimited Club.
Join today, starting at just $24.99 a month.
I watch soccer on the Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
لا تنسوا تتابعونا على Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I like to watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
Me gusta mirar fútbol en Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I love watching soccer on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Welcome back here into MSN Studios here in Shelby Township, Michigan. My name is Jonathan Turner. This is Dan Stickrat, bringing you here the high school rankings here on the Michigan Soccer Network. We had a question here right before the break, and it says, "How does Berkeley get a bye? Give me a break." Well, we're gonna not give you a break, but we're gonna tell you why they are where they are. And it comes down to a couple things, but the most important one is the MPR. So if you head over to the Michigan High School Athletic Association website and type in Berkeley Soccer, you will find out that they had a ranking of 18-2-1. That is their ranking, their record. And then you look at their MPR. MPR is based off of a number of criteria. I don't have that right in front of me, but their win-losses is what gave them, against the common opponents, is what gave them their ranking in the MPR calculator. If we look at the ranking, it says right here on the website, it's now used to seed teams in 6 MHSSCA tournaments: boys soccer, ice hockey, girls basketball, boys lacrosse, and girls soccer. As scores are added to the MHSSCA Score Center, the MPR for each school will continually recalculate. They request that you visit the statewide MPR table for each sport to filter the data. To see the statewide MPR for each division, you just click on, there's actually a link that they gave me to, and it tells you and breaks down every single thing. But looking at this, Detroit Catholic Central had the highest MPR across the entire state, and number 1, Troy High at number 2, Rockford 3, Grosse Pointe Woods, University of Liggett, which is in Division 4, by the way, and then Berkeley is in 5th. So when you ask why are they ranked there, or why they're the number 1 seed and have a first-round bye, that's why.
Yeah, and when they capped off to seed each district, at that time, Berkeley had the best percentage point in the MPR, just over Troy.
Yeah.
And Berkeley has 18 wins. I believe the only other school with that many wins is Division II Ludington. I believe they're 18-1-1. Berkeley.
Lansing Christian at 18-2.
Okay, yeah, Lansing Christian at 18-2.
Ludington at 18-1-1, like you said.
So
yep.
Berkeley played in a couple of tournaments back in August. They played schools that were going to be good in all 4 divisions. They loaded up a ton of non-league games in August before the OA Red started their conference play, and they were undefeated at that time. And all those teams ended up winning or competing for their conference championship, and then they're one of 5 teams out of the OA Red, and there's 8 schools in the OA Red. It is a large division. So they've had a great strength of schedule from mid-August till now. So there's a lot of variables. Their coaching staff played the game the right way in terms of scheduling quality teams throughout the season. They didn't load up with a bunch of schools that were going to go 4-12-2. They played schools that were going to be ranked or going to contend in their various conference races. So
and here's the thing, right? We're looking at this right now, and unfortunately, the MPR, well, it continues to calculate after the seeds have been drawn. Right. So when I go to the website right now, for example, Troy High is ranked higher than Berkeley. Now, keeping in mind that when the districts were drawn, MPR was calculated last week for the draw. That took place last Sunday afternoon. At that point, Berkeley had not lost another game yet, right? Troy High had just come off a loss against Athens, right? So the MPR in that scenario probably played a factor right there, and that's ultimately what pushed Troy into that 2nd seed and Berkeley into the 1st seed. So yes. So is it a perfect system? By no sense of the imagination, it's not. But what I will say is, compared to what it used to be, which was just a random draw. It used to be, I was part of those. I'd go sit in a room with a bunch of other coaches. We'd take names, put them in a hat. The first team picked. Over here, 2nd team was the away team, right? It was just down the right way we went. It was just how it worked, and it was unfair, and it was a crapshoot. And there was one year I was great. We picked a team that was like, okay, that's going to be a mercy. Thank goodness. We got a quick game on a Tuesday, and then the turnaround time. So it's not a perfect system, but it's better than the random draw that took place here for many, many years.
Yeah, there were times where you would see number 1 versus number 3 in the state open up on a Monday. And there were so many games the first 2 rounds which would pit top 10, top 15 teams against each other. This helps alleviate that a little bit, where you're likely going to see 2 teams with winning records, 2 ranked teams meeting in a district final. Is it a perfect system? No, there's never going to be a perfect system. There's never going to be a ranking that is perfect, but it is better than it was the previous 35, 40 years when they went to the MPR system 3-4 years ago.
Yes. So more rankings?
Yes.
Let's go do more rankings. Why not? Well, I mean, what's better than more rankings, right? I mean, we'll pump up the music again here and get you into rankings 5 through 1 here for Division 4. Starting off with Division 4, and it's going to start with Granville Calvin Christian at 13-2-3. They stayed the same, Dan, from last week. Plymouth Christian 12-1-2, up from the 6th spot. Hartford 16-1, down from 1st. Lansing Christian 18-2, up from 3rd. And then Grosse Pointe Woods University Liggett, the Cardinal champions of the Catholic League, take over 1st place for the first time this season.
And all 5 of those schools have won or could win a league championship. You start with Granville Calvin Christian. They will play tomorrow afternoon against Wyoming Godwin Heights, unranked in Division II, for the Silver Tournament Championship out of the Ottawa-Kent Conference. Godwin Heights finished a point ahead of them in the regular season standings, so if Calvin Christian can win the tournament, I believe they'll share the crown with Godwin Heights. Plymouth Christian went 8-0-2. They captured the blue division of the MIHSSCA Conference. That's a very quality league in Division 4. Hartford won the Southwestern Conference. However, they did finally lose a game. They lost 3-2 middle of last week to defending Division 4 state champ Wyoming Potter House Christian. So they've got the weight of their shoulders of having to go into the state tournament without a loss. Lansing Christian has been in the top 5 all year. They won the Greater Lansing Athletic Conference against several other teams that were above 500. And Grosse Pointe Woods University Liggett won the Intersectional 2 division. They won the Cardinal Championship over Everest Collegiate here on Wednesday. And now the Knights will try to win their first state championship since 1999.
My goodness.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. My goodness. Let's take a look at Division 3, Dan. Starting with Imlay City, 14-4-1. They're down from 4th. Holland Christian, 12-1-3, up from the 6th spot. Detroit Country Day, down from number 2 at 11-2-3. Grand Rapids Catholic Central, 13-2-1, up from 3rd. And Grand Rapids South Christian maintains the number 1 spot at 15-1-3.
Yeah, Imlay City did lose to Division I Troy, but they are champions of the Blue Water Area Conference. This is Imlay City, best team they've ever had. We've talked about that in previous weeks. Holland Christian always seems to be in the top 10, 12-1-3. Another team that remained in their conference, title hunt. Very dangerous team entering the state tournament. Country Day has won 15 MHSAA titles and then 1 Coach Association title back in the 70s. Independent, so they play whoever will play them. Very dangerous team again. Once again, Country Day has all the right pieces to make a deep run of the Final Four or better. Catholic Central and South Christian have been battling back and forth. They've kind of rotated in those top couple spots. South Christian did capture their conference, the Gold Division Tournament Championship on Saturday. So they share the overall crown with Grand Rapids CC in that division. So 2 more very dangerous teams. South Christian, 1 loss in 2 seasons. I believe they were 22-0-3 last year. They won the Division III state championship. They have been in several Division III state finals in the last decade or Final Fours. They've contended year in and year out. Doesn't matter how many kids they graduate, they always seem to be in contention for championships. So hats off to that program for maintaining kind of an elite status in Division III. We'll see if they can make another run and make it 2 straight into state championships in Division III.
Let's head to Division 2. Number 5, East Grand Rapids, up from 7, 11-3-2 last week. Grand Rapids Forest Hills Northern, 11-3-2, down from 2nd. Richard Gull Lake, another team that lost their number 1 spot. They had their first number of losses this week, 16-3-0. They had 2 losses this week. St. Joseph, 15-2-2, up from 4th, and they are in that 2nd spot. And then Bloomfield Hills Cranbrook Kingswood, 9-1-3. Takes over sole spot number 1 here across the state in Division 2. Dan, they had a phenomenal game. We had a chance to call that game here this past Wednesday. And I'll tell you, what Chad Okulich is doing there at Cranbrook, well organized, playing against arguably one of the best players in the state in Kyle Pearson, who did score a goal and assist in that game. It was off a free kick, a beautiful free kick that not a lot of goalkeepers would be able to save, and a beautiful assist that he had to tie the game up before it went into overtime. But they ended up winning with 2 minutes and 12 seconds to go, golden goal style, in the Catholic League Bishop final.
Yeah, and remember, Cranbrook was not ranked in the preseason, but they cracked into this in week 2, and they've slowly, gradually climbed up to the number 1 spot. 9-1-3. They're a school, because they're a boarding school, they don't have a lot of their students and players on campus until Labor Day weekend, so they don't really play many games, or if any at all, before the holiday weekend, where we mentioned like Berkeley will play 6, 8, 10 games.
Yeah,
a lot of schools
yeah.
will do that, where Cranbrook doesn't have a full lineup to be able to do that. So they're a very dangerous team, and surprisingly, they did lose 6 starters at graduation. So and they won the Bishop title last season in the tournament. They beat De La Salle, and now they lost to CC in the final. So hats off to them. St. Joe is a very quality team. They've been climbing D2. They come out of that Southwestern Michigan Athletic Conference, Richmond, Gold Lake, Matawan, Portage Central, Portage Northern. It's always a very good league. St. Joe has Christian Shannon, probably Division II's best shot for Mr. Soccer. That kid has more offers at the D1 level than just about anybody. And then Forest Hills Northern and East Grand Rapids both come out of that white division of the Ottawa-Kent Conference. We talked earlier in the season about certain conferences being loaded and stacked. That division's had 4 teams that remain in that top 15 all season. They just been kind of shuffling around. Forest Hills Northern ended up winning the regular season portion of that league, and the conference tournament final, I believe, is tomorrow.
That is another question coming in, this one asking about Groves and Seaholm. So Birmingham Groves is part of the Berkeley-Troy district. They are playing Troy Athens here this upcoming Wednesday in that pre-district matchup. And then Seaholm, I believe, is a part of, looking at the schedule here, just looking at the sheet here on the website. Where is Birmingham Seaholm located? I believe they're in, where are they?
Are they with Livonia Stevenson?
They are. They are the number 2 seed in the Livonia Stevenson district. And I don't have who they're playing, but as a number 2 seed, I believe they're playing North Farmington, I believe. But yeah, so that's where Seaholm is at for the upcoming districts here on this upcoming week. So let's get into the number, because we have some things we want to cover here. Let's get into the number Division 1, 5 through 1 here, starting again Division 1 here. It'll rotate on your screen here in just a moment. Troy Athens, Okemos, Rockford, Detroit Catholic Central, and Troy all say the same. We're done. Sorry. Troy High just won the OAA Red for consecutive years for the first time in over 30 years. Jimmy Satura, they're 12-1. They're 12-1-0 last week, 15-1-0 going into this with the final record. They've lost 2 games in the last 2 years. To think about that, that's fairly impressive.
Yeah, with the schedule Troy's played.
Yeah,
that's exceptional. And then Catholic Central won their division of the Catholic League. They won the Bishop tournament. Their only loss was in early September on a Saturday when they didn't have their full lineup there. They lost to Midland Dow. Midland Dow has a chance to win the Saginaw Valley Conference tomorrow if they can beat Flint Powers Catholic. Rockford, 15-0-1, the only Division I school still without a loss. This is the best team they've had in their school history. The regular season of the Red Division of the Ottawa-Kent Conference, they were tied with Grand Haven being upset in the semis by Jenison. Jenison will face Rockford for the conference championship tomorrow. If they win that, they will be the outright champions of another very quality league, the OK Red Division. Troy Athens is Troy Athens. Doesn't matter how many kids they graduate, they always seem to be in their league race, one of 5 teams ranked out of that conference. And Okemos went 23 and a half months without a loss.
Yeah, it's another school, right? Oklahoma has won they're the defending state champions from Division I. They beat Anchor Bay last year in the state finals, right? And you're right, their first loss coming this past week.
To East Lansing, 1-0 in the gold tournament.
Crosstown rival.
Yep. Just 5 miles apart. Yeah. And East Lansing's another team that actually moved up to D1 3 years ago. They were a D2 state powerhouse for years.
Yep.
Has not been ranked, but a team that has a very good record, very quality schedule the last couple of years.
Yep.
The team that, they could win a district and make a run. Do not count the Trojans out at all, even without the state ranking. But yeah, hats off to Okemos for going that long without a loss. I mean, their previous loss was in the 2020 season. They went undefeated last year. They had a couple ties, and then 13-1-4 here entering the district week, and just another great job by the Okemos coaching staff to keep that team, amongst the best in the state. And they only graduated 8 of their 11 starters from last season's state championship team.
It's ingrained. It's ingrained in that community, right? We can talk about it all day long. There's just a number of schools, and if you look at these rankings from week to week, there's a lot of Christian and Catholic schools in these rankings, right? These communities, Clarkson Everest has only 155 students in their entire school, and yet they're top ranked. Right? They've been to 3 state championships out of the last 4 years. They've lost them.
3 Final Fours.
So 3 Final Fours, thank you. So they've had tremendous success in getting, there with nowhere even close to the amount of students that most of these schools who are competing on a yearly basis have. Sometimes probably they're down by 10 times more players or more opportunity as far as players are concerned with regards to students. So it's phenomenal. It's really cool to see how all these teams are shake up, and we're looking forward to the districts here coming up here, obviously later this week. I want to remind everybody, tomorrow night right here on the Michigan Soccer Network, we'll be covering the MAC Red Final. Right now, there are 2 teams who are fighting for an opportunity to hoist that trophy and call themselves MAC Red League champions. That's between Utica Eisenhower, who will go into Anchor Bay tomorrow night. We'll be covering that game live at 7 p.m. right here on the Michigan Soccer Network. Steve Besk and I on the call. Sam Fisher, our camera operator, will be out there as he always is. So look forward to seeing that tomorrow. We're excited about that game. As far as districts are concerned, we'll be having a conversation tomorrow with the Michigan High School Athletic Association about where they might want us to go. The playoffs are a little bit of a different beast in regards to high school, in regards to the National Federation. They own the rights to all the playoff games, so if there's a game they want us to cover, we can go out there and do those games, but otherwise we'll just be bringing you our media coverage of those games. We'll be going out to a number of select games here in Oakland County and the KLA on that side, as well as Macomb County, to cover some games here and bring you some highlights here next Sunday night at 8 p.m. live here on the Michigan Soccer Network. So our ranking show is just going to turn into a highlight show for playoffs.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So really, really excited about that show here coming up next week. But that is all of the rankings, Dan, here on this Sunday evening. Last rankings of the season.
Yeah, and again, not every conference is decided. We will find out the rest of these conference tournament champions or final game in various conferences on Monday or Tuesday. Outside of the MHSSCA, the Upper Peninsula will have their state championship tournament in 2 weekends. Marquette is going after their 15th straight UP Division I state championship.
Wow.
Escanaba, Gladstone, Bayside Unified won Division II last year. In the homeschool circuit, Byron Center, West Michigan Heat homeschool was the state and national champions last year. They've actually played quite a few MHSSCA schools that were even a couple that have been ranked. So look for them to try to defend their titles. And then in the Michigan Association of Christian Schools will start their tournaments end of this upcoming week. Rochester Hills Christian is the defending Division I state champs in that association. Vassar Juniata Christian, the defending 2 state champs. So we'll keep an eye on and see who wins those other four tournaments. So in parallel with the MHSSCA, with their 4 divisions, we'll be crowning a lot of champions in the next few weeks with district, regionals, and state championships. Exciting time of year to say the least.
Seaholm will win their district because Greg P. is the coach. Groves may have a chance against Troy Athens, their first district game. I think if Groves, and from someone that used to coach at Groves, I could say if there is a chance for Groves to win against Athens, this could be a good year. Groves is not a bad team at all. I had to look at the record. I don't know what the record was going into this, but again, Groves saw them one time this year against Sterling Heights Stevens in a good matchup, so they do have a chance. And as far as that Seaholm matchup with Greg P, I will tell you this: Perkins, by the way, is his name. But Livonia Stevenson, Birmingham, Seaholm. I mean, looking at that district, Livonia Stevenson and Birmingham, Seaholm are really the only quality side.
Yeah, because Birmingham Girls won that district last year. They beat Stevenson in the final.
Yep.
They got moved out.
They did.
So Seaholm has one loss. They won the OAA White Division. I believe Girls and Royal Oak were in contention, but they end up clinching the league championship last week. They do have a tie against Rochester Adams. Adams is ranked 9th in Division I. They have 6 ties. One was against Seaholm early in the year. Seaholm is a very good defensive team. New coaching staff. They've played well. I believe they upset Athens in a crossover game recently where both teams played a lot of their bench players.
Yeah.
Very common late in the season if a game is being played that it doesn't have title implications, that schools will give a lot of their bench players some minutes because you never know when you'll need those kids in a district game. So we're here. It's that time of year. Again, championships will be decided the next 2 days, and then it all starts on Wednesday.
That it does. Well, some reminders. Coming up here on November the 5th, we will have our pregame show at Novi High School for the state finals. We'll be out there live. There'll be a number of us talking about the teams and talking about the state championships as a whole and talking about just the state of soccer in regards to high school here in the state of Michigan. That'll be live on November 5th. As far as the timeline, we'll let you know about that. Also coming up here tomorrow on the network, our first edition of Call of the Week, brought to you by the Michigan Referee Committee. Each and every week we'll have a call that takes place during one of our broadcasts that MIHSSCA will go ahead and review and provide with you the technical information as regards to the laws of the game and whether or not that application was accurate or not in the video. That'll launch tomorrow sometime during the mid-afternoon right here on the Michigan Soccer Network. We'll also include it as part of our broadcast. This past week we had a chance to cover the Catholic League Finals, so if you want to watch Detroit Catholic Central and versus Cranbrook, again, last week there was number 2 versus number 3 in that Catholic League final. That's available right now on demand on our YouTube channel. If you want to watch the division, the Cardinal Championship between Clarkson Everest Collegiate and University Liggett, that's also available on our YouTube channel as well as the highlights from all those games. So if you don't want to watch the full game, you can watch the highlight package as well. So, getting some of that business stuff. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button for us, please. We do ask that you do that. Hit that bell. That way you're notified every time we go live or add new content. And that way, you can be a part of these shows more often on a regular basis. And coming next week, you will have the ability to call in and ask a question live on the air through our call-in option. That will be available during our live show here next week. We may even make it available during one of our live broadcasts as well out in the field. Why not, right? And exciting news coming up here a week from today, we will be covering the University of Michigan versus Michigan State University in their college club soccer matchup here next Sunday night, 6th afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern here on the Michigan Soccer Network. So exciting stuff going on here on the network.
Yeah, I want to do a call out to, now that a lot of the leagues are finished, they'll be picking their all-conference teams. Please send a copy of the all-conference team and your final league standings to us. We'll try to run as many of those on the website as we can over the next few weeks, and then we will publish the all-state teams once they're available here after a few days after the state finals. So the Coach Association will choose their all-state teams. Generally, it's the day after the state championships, and then in recent years, they've posted it like on the Tuesday or Wednesday night following the state championships, their dream team and their all-state teams in each of the 4 divisions. So lots to look forward to on the individual player side, lots of action in all the different state tournaments. I want to personally give everyone a shout out and best of luck in your various state tournament. And we'll see if some schools can repeat or if we'll have some first-time state champions. You just never know what could happen.
Never know what can happen. It's that time of year. Business at the end of the season has come to an end. It's now playoff time. Well, after our league matchups here tomorrow night and Tuesday, but the districts are getting underway here. The first round of districts start on Wednesday. A great show once again. Our final ranking show here of the fall season. Dan Stickred, I'm Jonathan Turner. We appreciate you joining us here on this Sunday evening. We know football is on. Go watch football, and we'll see you next time here on the Michigan Soccer Network for more soccer.